Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today and learning for this week is dedicated by the Torah Center founders Michael and Joseph Gout and their families. In loving memory, Lunishmat, their father Naftali ben Le'av and Nisan Gad, by his wife Shifra and children. Also dedicated for the complete refuah shlema for Eliyahu Shlomo Farhi and the continued health for Chana Bat Simafega. The deluxe breakfast in the class that we are having today is in loving memory of Naftali Gad. Lilun Shman Naftali ben Le'av and Nisan Gad by Shifra Gad and family. So they are the Torah Center founder, donors, and as well donors of today's deluxe breakfast. The year of breakfast in the class is dedicated loving memory Lilun Shmat Ruth Orfali Bat Adela, sponsored by her family. Her name is mentioned every year, every day of the full year of her Shiva. Very, very special of her Petira. Very special. The loving, also dedicated loving memory Lishmat Mahin ben Yahan Moshe for her Shiloshim. She was a true inspiration to her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, embodying a fierce spirit, unwavering independence, and profoundly genuine connection to Hashem. Her thirst for learning and a passion for teaching others to grow and thrive were remarkable. Aziz June, you will be deeply missed, and your legacy will continue to inspire us. We love you, the Radford and Kamran families. What a beautiful message. Be'ezat Hashem tenishmata tzura b'tzora hayim, and of course Lilu Nishmat Yaakov ben Shimon ve'Aisha, Lilu Nishmat Jacob Shetrit. We'll miss him terribly. Okay, my friends, let's begin. I want to share with you an interesting moment in time, a moment in the story of the Makot, which has a tremendous revelation on human character. The Pasuk tells us that when it came to the Makkah of Tzefardea, there's a terrible plague going on. Everything is a disaster. The whole place is up in arms. Anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is flipping out. Please get rid of these. Get rid of the Makot. I can't handle it anymore. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Pharaoh something very interesting. He says, tell me, Limatai a'atir lach? When do you want me to pray for you? And Pharaoh says, tomorrow. Now, Pharaoh at this point, to ask Moshe Rabbeinu for help is humiliating, right? Remember, Pharaoh doesn't just think that he's a king. Pharaoh has the whole country believing that he's a god. So to ask this guy to solve the problem really is a soul-crushing, identity-ruining experience. So you'd imagine that if he finally enlists the help of Moshe, please only answer amen if you're listening to this live. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyam daro. So, it must have been unmanageable, unlivable to the point that he's willing to make this move. And yet, when Moshe asks him, when should I pray? When does he say to pray? Not now. He says to pray tomorrow. What's going on? Why is this the case? Chachamim explain that Pharaoh was trying to preclude a situation where actually this wasn't from God. Actually, what was this from? Some natural phenomenon. No way to understand why, but I don't know. Maybe this guy, Moshe, maybe he has unique knowledge of nature. He's meteorologist Craig Allen, so he can tell you when stuff is going to come, right? Maybe he's an expert in amphibious creature, behavior. Maybe he's a ornithologist. Maybe he's a geologist, so he knows when, rock formations in the form of salt balls are going to fall out of the sky. Yeah, maybe he's just a guy who learned a lot. So what is he doing? He's timing the makkah that he's giving us to coincide when it would have happened anyway. So if Moshe's coming to me to ask me, when should I pray? maybe the reason why Moshe is saying that is because it's really over. And if I tell him to wait till tomorrow, maybe it will stop tonight. And if it stops tonight, then it wasn't Pharaoh. It wasn't Moshe, excuse me. It wasn't God. One of the most beautiful things I ever learned from my rabbi is just a small observation. He noted that when it comes to face time in the Torah, to lines in the play, Yitzchak Avinu has very few lines in the play. There's very little that Yitzchak says or does in the Torah. Yaakov has a lot of lines. Lavan has more lines than Yitzchak. Paro has more lines than Yitzchak. And my rabbi explained, the point of this book, the Torah, is not to regale us or to relate historical accounts of our forefathers. It's not the art scroll book on the Avot. It's there to be able to teach humanity forever how to act. And Yitzchak, being the ultimate paragon of Gvura, was someone whose perfection, he was called Olah Temimah, like a whole Olah. His perfection was so great, actually, he was not allowed to leave the land of Israel. Like the laws of a Korban Olah, that it's not allowed to leave there are certain areas because it's too holy. So Yitzchak's holiness, Yitzchak's purity, meant in a certain way that he was completely and utterly unrelatable to us. Therefore, even if his actions were so good, they were out of the realm of our possibility. So my friends, if we spend a lot of time talking about Paro, it's got to be the case that there's a lot for us to learn from Paro. Not in a positive way. Maybe how not to behave. But there's tremendous lessons to be learned from the behavior of Paro. What are we learning from this interaction that Paro has with Moshe? And it's so beneficial to be able to straw man a musar. You know, I have a musar class for guys on Monday night. And sometimes when you're saying musar to people, it can cut close to the bone. Because you're telling someone that they have to change. And it's very hard for people to change. So defense mechanisms go up. But the funny thing is, if I tell you a story about this other guy, who is really the same as you, it's very easy for you to hear the musar that I'm sharing with you. Right? That's called the straw man technique. They use it in debating. I want you to agree with me on something. It's difficult for you because it's a pain point for you. So you know what I'll do? I create like a straw man, i.e. like a scarecrow. It looks like a human being. I throw all my arguments at the straw man. And then when you agree with me, I explain to you that you're the same thing. Who did this in the Torah? Excellent. Natan HaNavi did this to David HaMelech. In the story of David and Bathsheba, Natan HaNavi did not come to David and say, you sinned. What did he come to Navi and say? A whole story about this guy who only has one sheep. Another guy, rich guy, has lots of sheep. The rich guy takes the poor man's sheep, only has one. David HaMelech is incensed. Natan HaNavi says, the man in the story is you. What do you learn from Natan HaNavi's trick? That had Natan HaNavi come to David and said, you did the wrong thing, it would not have landed, or at least it would not have landed in the same way. That's the straw man technique. What the Torah is doing over here is giving us, many opportunities to laugh at Paro before we learn to laugh at ourselves. Or perhaps so that we could learn to laugh at ourselves. Paro wants to be right. And he wants to be right so badly that he's willing to suffer in order to be right. I have a problem that's so bad, I need to lower myself, humiliate myself to ask Moshe Rabbeinu. All of a sudden Moshe asks me, Lematai A'atir. And that part of me, the ego inside of me, looms so large that I could accept on myself suffering, pain, in order to feel right, in order to be right. My friends, how many times are you in a situation as a rabbi where you're talking to a parent? Parent told the kid, to stay with him in the business. The kid left the family business. Father told, don't go. You have a great out. You have it great over here. You don't know how good you have it. Kid leaves, opens up his own business, and the business fails. The likelihood of the father not pulling an "I told you so" is next to zero. Next to 0% of fathers will be able to withhold an "I told you so." Now, sometimes, like we know the cliche of "I told you so," so we use other words to say exactly the same thing. Like, what other words could you use?
This wasn't a great idea.
This is why I was trying to tell you. You see, I always have your best interests at heart. That's why I was trying to get you to. He can't help himself. Now the funniest thing is, what is the purpose of the job he gave to his son in the first place? The love and concern and care that he has for his child to succeed. Why is he now pulling an "I told you so"? Not to help his child succeed. In this, he's taking his son in a vulnerable moment and he's breaking him more. But he can't help himself. The relationship will be damaged. The son will move further away, but he got in his "I told you so." One of the most awkward things in the world is when a couple is fighting in front of other people. And the words that they use, I don't want to say that there's like inappropriate words, like swear words or cursing, but they're so cutting. And the person will say something along the lines of, I wanted to leave early because the kids are home and I told them I was going to come, and I told you that if we came here we'd get stuck, but you told me you were going to come out on time. First of all, do we need to be having this conversation while we're sharing an Uber home? Can you not wait, so that your dirty laundry is not in other people's? Why should they know? Why should they have a negative? You know what the answer is? That's a person who can't even wait 5 minutes to be declared winner, to be declared right. This is one of the most challenging human traits. It's the thing that makes people stay in bad relationships. It's the thing that makes people stay in bad investments. It's a thing that actually won't allow somebody to take steps forward that will be beneficial for them. This is how I do things. This is my way. That's a limatai atir. You know when? Lemachar. I want to add one more piece to this. Pharaoh's asking Moshe at this moment means that he suffered as long as he could. Right? He couldn't wait anymore. Otherwise, if he could have waited longer, what would he have done? He would have waited longer. So Pharaoh has reached the end of his time on this subject, on this matter. And yet, the second there's a chance to be able to salvage his ego, what happens? he finds new strength to be able to be sovel, to be able to take difficulty, punishment, pain, challenge, adversity. I think there's a second lesson here in Paro's lemachar. You know, a lot of times a person will tell you, you know, Rabbi, I'm fighting for this marriage. I'm fighting already for a year. I can't. I don't have any more in me. Rabbi, you don't know. I can't make up with this person. I can't fix this relation. I can't do it. I have nothing left. But the crazy thing is that we learn from Paro is, I don't know if you've ever seen this. They used to have these ropes that people would play tug of war with. Remember those ropes? At the end of the rope, what did they have? Right at the end of the rope, there was a knot. Excellent. Why? Because the last guy needed to have something to hold. And I thought to myself, whenever a person gets to the end of his rope, he should remember that actually there's more rope. Only reason why there's not any more rope is because you decided to tie knots in the end of the rope. Untie the knots, there's more rope. We always have more than we think we have in our tank. What we need, and by the way, if ever you didn't think you have more in your tank, you've never met a Sephardic man driver of a car. My wife is already refilling the tank when we're like nearing the quarter full. I'm like, we have miles to go. 7/8, I laugh in the face of 7/8 empty. Orange light, no one's gonna tell me how many miles I have left once it's switched to the orange light. I know my car. There's always more gas in the tank, my friends, until there isn't. But oftentimes, the reason why there isn't any more gas in the tank is not because there isn't more gas in the tank. So, I wanted to throw this your way. And let me tell you why. Someone yesterday told me, Rabbi, you know, there's something strange about your class. I feel like you're bugging my phone. I said, what do you mean? He said, every time when you give a class, I'm going through something, I need to hear something, some chizuk in an issue, you know, about respecting parents. I need to hear chizuk about raising children, about not giving up, not throwing in the towel. And on that day, that's what you'll say. So I've learned in my life that when I think of something that I want to share on the parasha, I share it on that day. Because maybe Hashem was sharing it with me that day so that person should get it that day. So I try, if I've learned something, if I thought of something that I want to share on the parasha on a given day, I'll try and share it on that day. And on this day, I was thinking about this idea. Paro has a limachar in him. He could have waited one more day. Why didn't he wait one more day? Because of his pain. But there was a pain in Paro's life that was greater than his pain from the Makkah. And what was that? Being wrong. My friends, maybe sometimes, instead of having someone else stroke our egos, we could stroke our own ego. Maybe sometimes we could look at a situation and say, you know what? It's okay if I'm not right. It's okay if my feelings are hurt. It's okay if my ego is bruised. It's okay if the person didn't treat me properly with the proper amount of respect. I had a fellow come to me once, and he apologized profusely. On and on and on he's apologizing for something I didn't remember. And when he reminded me of what he was talking about, I still wasn't insulted. I'll give you the exact example it was. I had just become the rabbi here, and someone had a brit milah. And I think at the time they asked someone else that they were very close with, because I had just come to the synagogue, to say the berachot of the brit milah. And a guy's telling me that it's weighed on his conscience for years until he built up the courage to be able to come and to ask forgiveness from me. I'm like looking at this guy like, I'm trying to care, but this is not something that bothers me. It didn't bother me then, it's not bothering me now. But for years the guy's tortured. You know why? Because he couldn't bring himself to get it off his chest. Unbelievable. How much pain do we have to go through so that we don't bruise our fragile egos? You don't know how to deal with something. Ask. You're having trouble with something. Get help. Like, again, I'm a very straightforward guy. Always have been. I blame my parents. Right? My father's straight shooter. He's so honest, clear, open. My mother, same way. There's a whole conversation today about normalizing therapy. Destigmatizing therapy. Because people are scared to go. What's wrong with me? I had to go to therapy. I have an alternate campaign. I feel like, really, in a sane world, we should destigmatize and normalize insane people who have problems and won't get help with their problems. We should not need to normalize a situation where a person has a problem that's ruining his life and he won't get help for it. A person has a marriage, very important, loves his wife, loves her, is hurting his wife because he has an issue. He doesn't know how to deal with it. He's not been trained to deal with it. Maybe he got some help, didn't work. Why should it be a thing? Why should it need normalization? Why should we need to destigmatize the most normal thing in the world? Getting help, solving a problem, you can't help or you can't solve yourself. Why does that need to be normalized? And the answer is, because we're all a bunch of wackos. We're all a bunch of sick people who would rather suffer and not have the answer, but have this weird image of ourselves intact, which is crazy because the image that we have is still an image of, in our minds, a failure. We know we have the problem, so the image is tarnished already. What are you saving? No one's allowed to know. I'm nervous it will get back to whomever. You know what else people will find out about? If you get divorced, they'll also find out about that. You're so nervous to send your child somewhere because the school doesn't exactly match your family, the image you're trying to very carefully construct and uphold. So nervous about it. You know what else will ruin your family name? If your child goes off the derech and your child becomes not religious completely because you were unwilling to send them to this school or that school to get the help that he or she needed. Look at how much investing we are making in a precarious and fragile now. It is ludicrous. But my friends, that is the power of ego. I'm struggling with dating. I'm struggling with marriage. I'm struggling with, guy told me, Rabbi, I'm not the type of guy that would ever go out on a set up date. I don't know, it's not my thing. Like, I feel like then, I'm a hazit. I needed someone to introduce me to a girl. Like, I'm the type of guy has to do it myself. I'm like, you're the type of guy that's a moron. Like, When you go to a restaurant, do you tell the waiter, no, you sit down. I'm the type of guy, I have to get it myself. Then you walk into the kitchen, chef, I'm the type of guy. What are you, insane? Who cares how the suggestion came to you? Who cares? Why is that relevant in any way, shape, or form? You know, a long time ago I had this idea. We were talking about this the other night. You know, difficulty of guys, of people meeting people to get married. I said, okay, in a certain crowd, at a certain age, get a bunch of people in a room, have a speed dating event, let everybody meet at, speed date. I don't want to, no one wants to feel like they need a speed date. They feel like I think it. Okay, let's just revisit. You're not meeting someone. You want to meet someone. You don't want to feel like you needed help meeting someone. But you know what happens if you didn't get the help meeting someone? You are a person who has not met someone. You know what else people might see, realize, understand? They might realize that you're 75 years old and you still didn't get married. It is unbelievable what we won't do. But it's so healthy for us and happy for us to laugh at Pharaoh's tomorrow, to push off. I remember I had a conversation once with a fellow. The guy's marriage was falling apart. His family was falling apart. His wife wanted to leave him. His children hated his guts. Anyway, I said to him, listen, I don't want to overstep, but like your wife, your kids, the whole thing, everything is a disaster. I said, why don't you take the whole family and go have a session? Don't call it a therapist. Don't call it a psychiatrist or psychologist. Call it a family coach. I don't care what you call it, right? Call it a mentor. Call it a family enhancement facilitator. Call it, I don't care what you call it, but go. You know what the guy said? I've been thinking about it, Rabbi. He goes, I don't think we're there yet. You what? What? Tomorrow there's not going to be there yet to get to. What are we doing? What are we doing? So Paro and his stubbornness have a lot to teach us. Paro and his stubbornness have a lot to teach us. I have gout. I have had gout. It's hereditary. I've had it since I was in my mid-30s. One day, woke up, my big toe is killing. No idea what this is. Never had it before. It didn't smash it. Didn't get run over by a car. Anyone who's had a gout attack will know how painful it is. It's like screaming level. Anything touches it, like the sheet touches, you're like yelling. It's horrible. A guy tells me I have gout. He says, listen, you can go on medication. There's a medication for you. Take a pill. I was like, how long for? He says, the rest of your life. I'm like, not taking a pill. So I weathered one attack. Then I went to Bournemouth for the high holidays, for Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. And I was speaking all over the place. It took me a half hour to walk, a 5-minute walk, because I was walking on the outside of my feet down the block. I couldn't step on my feet. The next day, I had a big thing to speak at across town, about maybe 35-minute walk. I could not walk. So at the age of 35 or 36 years old, they wheeled me in a wheelchair, okay, to this next location. 36 years old. I don't need to take pills. It's ridiculous. No, it's fine. I looked it up online. You don't have to take pills. Just eat a lot of Montmorency cherries. Don't worry. I have tried every wives' tale. I first came across the word for a basket of cherries. Does anyone know what it is in England? I now know that the word for a basket of cherries is a punnet. Punnet of cherries. I have eaten punnets full of cherries in an attempt to not have to do something that actually costs me nothing, doesn't hamper my lifestyle. Why? I don't need that. What are you, a gorilla? It's amazing, but that's how we are. Guy's telling me he won't use an art scroll Gemara. Why? Because his rabbi told him that his art scroll Gemara is cheating. I said, oh, it's very nice. I said, so how are you managing with the Gemara? He says, I can't read Hebrew, so I stopped learning Gemara. Moron! Are we on the same page here? Yeah, this is who we are. Because, I don't want to do that's not the real, It's amazing. It is amazing. This is the nature. Now, when a person is ready to graduate, absolutely. Then he should do it without the crutch. He should figure it out himself. Absolutely. When he gets there, fantastic. But the idea that you can't recognize where you are, you can't say, I need help. So wherever you are, if you're listening to this, even if you're on a packed train, say to yourself, loudly enough so that your own ears can hear, with regards to, fill in the blank, marriage, dating, business, health, whatever. With regards to, fill it in, I need help. Just say that. If it hurts to say it again. If it hurts to say it again. Maybe if you're on a packed train, try not to shout, I need help, repeatedly. Say it low enough that no one either thinks you're crazy or sets you on fire. But my friends, we need to learn from Pharaoh that when you need help, you don't push it off till tomorrow, you get it right now. Hashem should bless us be'ezrat Hashem to be zocheh, to be brave enough to institute the changes that we need in our life, to ask for and receive the help that we need in whatever area it is, and to realize that our pride, which is broken, will actually be restored to its former glory by fixing the problem that's causing your pain and your pride to suffer in the first place. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen v'amen.